This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices, and you can get a special price and a 30-day money-back guarantee right now by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, so we started the show talking about new product launch. We talked last week about several new product launches, and because it's Techtober, we've got another one, right?
Yes.
I'm sticking with that name, by the way.
Techtober. Well, we still have another few days left in the month. So
we do.
So we talked before the show about Razer coming out with something because that was pretty cool. Now let's talk about another company who has the same colors as Razer, NVIDIA. So NVIDIA has come out with a new tier for its GeForce Now streaming service. So I believe we've talked about GeForce Now in the past. It's been quite a while since the service actually launched. GeForce Now is NVIDIA's cloud gaming service. It entered beta in 2015, and there were a lot of people in the free beta, but it actually went live for paid memberships in 2020. And now the company is adding an RTX 3080 tier, which means that if you don't have an RTX 3080 in your computer, you can effectively rent one to play in the cloud. So, but there's a lot of caveats to that. So, first of all, GeForce Now works a little bit differently than some other services in that it is a PC gaming service, but you log in on your computer and you can run it from a PC, a Windows PC, a Mac, a phone, a set-top box like the NVIDIA Shield, even from a browser. So you could play it on a Chromebook. The company recommends that you have at least a 5 gigahertz wireless connection or gigabit Ethernet for good connection. And what you can do then is you log in and you can play games that you own that are installed in the cloud. But there are several hundred games that are supported, but there's a lot of games that are not supported. And if it's not supported, you can't play it. And of course, you have to own the game. So, and it supports games that are available in a variety of launchers. So it supports some games that launch through Steam, some that launch through the Epic Game Store or through Good Old Games. But what it does not support is Microsoft does not, I think, sees GeForce Now as a competitor. So you can't play Minecraft. And I don't know if you can play any other Microsoft games. So, but there are several hundred games on the list, and you can play them, and you can play them with a 3080 now if you sign up for this membership. So the cost is, right now they're selling these in 6-month increments. Okay, right. So there's 3 tiers. There's a free tier, which gives you up to an hour of gameplay continuously until you get kicked off. There's no guarantee about what card you're getting, but you're definitely not getting a 3080 card, and you can play at 720p. Then there is the priority tier, which is $50 for 6 months. So you do the math, that comes out to $8 and something per month. And you can play games with ray tracing on, but not on I think it's a 2080, not a 3080. And you get priority access, which means if people who are on the free tier are trying to log in and you're trying to log in and there's a limited number of logins, you will get in above them, and you can play for up to 6 hours. And it says that you can play games on the priority tier at 1080p, 60 FPS. Now, this new tier that's coming along, the RTX 3080 tier, $99 for 6 months, so $16 and something cents per month, gives you a 3080 card in your remote, the machine you're logging onto. You can play for up to 8 hours at a time, and you can play at up to 1440p, 120 frames per second. And if you have a Shield TV, only if you have a Shield TV, you can actually play games in 4K HDR. Although the 4K HDR, if you play in 4K HDR, I think you get only 60 FPS, but you're still getting 4K HDR, which is a lot. So those are the new plans. Now, one thing that's really interesting is that right now you can pre-order the 3080 plan. In other words, you can't get it yet, and you'll have to already be a priority member or a founder. To founders, I guess, or people who signed up early before while the service was still in beta to order the 3080 service. And there's going to be limited quantities of it, so I guess as many as they feel the service can handle at this point. So the interesting thing, though, is the majority. We got to talk to some folks from NVIDIA while learning about this, and what they said is that the average gaming session is an hour right now, and that most of the people who are using the service are not folks who have like a last gen graphics card and want a newer graphics card. They're people who are on integrated graphics. They're using a laptop that has integrated graphics. So how many people are going to say, I really need to take this up to the next level and get 3080 performance is, an interesting question. And this provides an interesting backdrop for all the stories about shortages that are going on, because here's some cards that are, or chips anyway. I don't think they're going to, I think they're going to some kind of what they call GeForce Now super pods, which are giant servers that are capable of 39,200 teraflops of processing and have 11 million CUDA cores. So clearly it's not like you're getting a regular PC that's sitting on a shelf. It's a data center with a giant PC, and you're getting a 3080 chip within it. But they say you won't be sharing it with anyone while you're on. So, each user will have access to just one. So, it's interesting. Of course, the big limitation is, do they have the games that you want to play?
Right.
Because, they have a list NVIDIA has a list online of all the games they support. And I think there's actually about 900 games on here. But while I was looking through, I didn't really find a lot that I really wanted to play. So, my son and I love playing Minecraft and Minecraft Dungeons. Don't have it on here. We like the Lego games. I think one Lego game. So but on the other hand, they have Cyberpunk 2077. They've got a bunch of Battlefield games. So there's, depending on what you want to play, granted, you have to have bought the game. So there's some degree of investment for folks who are not PC gamers right now. Let's say you don't own a gaming PC and you say, I want to get into PC gaming, and I've got a lightweight laptop and I just want to play PC games on it. Great. You're going to have to pay for GeForce Now, and then you're going to have to buy games. Although there are some free-to-play games as well. We should mention, so it's not, if a game was free to play in real life, not as GeForce Now, then I think it's pretty free to play it's free to play on there. So um, you know, it's interesting. The other thing that they are doing that I believe applies to at least the top two tiers is that they are implementing an interesting form of adaptive sync to the cloud. So, for folks who don't know, adaptive sync is FreeSync or G-Sync usually, and that is usually on a person's computer. That usually takes place at the monitor and video card level. So your monitor can refresh at 120 hertz. Your graphics card sees that your monitor can do 120 hertz, and when you're about to play a game and it thinks that it can give you 130 frames a second, it says no, I'm going to keep you at 120 so that there's not any tearing or ghosting, because that's what happens when when the frame rate and the hertz refresh rate don't match each other. Now, with this, what's interesting is it's going to know what your monitor's refresh rate is, and it's just going to give you that. So if you if your monitor doesn't have to be FreeSync or G-Sync, because if you have a 60 hertz monitor, it's going to give you the game. It's going to try to give you the game at 60 frames per second. I'm not sure if you have to do
sense.
that, or if it's just a feature you can enable, but enable or disable. But supposedly, it's going to actually adapt to what it knows you have. So the cloud is only going to send you as much as your monitor can handle, instead of having your monitor perhaps drop down or up, like in offline FreeSync and adaptive sync. Your monitor does the adjustment, and that means your monitor has to be smart. Here, all the smarts are going to happen in the cloud, which is interesting. But you know, so it'll be interesting to see what that does. Another thing that is important to note, you and I are always talking about bandwidth caps. So, any guesses to how many megabits per second playing on the RTX 3080 tier is going to require?
I'm terrified to find out because I
So
bet it's a ton.
they say, and I really actually want to test this. So I admit to not having tested any of this yet. This is just new stuff. 25. They said 25 FPS, 25 megabit per second for playing at two. So they claim, like I said, 2K, otherwise known as 1440p at 120 frames a second. So they claim that you will that that will be 25 megabits per second. But if you have the Shield with the 4K HDR mode, that's going to be more. That could be quite a bit more. Now, for all of the GeForce Nows, well, no matter what tier you're in, they recommend that your home internet connection be at least 35 megabit per second overall, which is, I don't think, hard to meet, because most of the minimum plans are at least 35 or 50 now on most ISPs. But what does that mean in terms of bandwidth caps? I don't know. I haven't done the math. How many hours a day could you play before you hit your bandwidth cap?
I'm doing math right now. I apologize.
Sorry,
I have
25 megabit per second is how much per hour? I do you have to we have to convert megabits to gigabytes, right? Because the caps are measured in gigabytes.
So that's 3.125 megabytes per second times 60 seconds. So per minute, it's 187 and a half. It is 11,250 per hour megabytes.
So that's a gigabyte.
11.
So that is 11,000 gigabytes.
That's 11 gig per per hour.
11 gig per hour. Okay, so 11 gigs per hour. And what is, for those who have data caps, what is a typical data cap?
Let me do
150, I think.
let's do a search in our news for
I think it's one.
data cap.
I think
Comcast's is 1.25 terabytes.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's 1.25 terabytes, which is up from the 1 terabyte that they offered before. So that
maybe
means
it's not
that
that bad. I mean,
that means that you could play for about 100 hours a month and do nothing else online.
right. Now, the so now, of course, the final word on all of this, I mean, not that it's the final word, but my final word on all of this for today, I guess, is like, but if you were that serious of a gamer that you were going to play 100 hours a month,
Uh-huh.
you you probably wouldn't be on this plan, because what even though, like, you're getting an RTX 3080, and so for the cost of the plan, the cost of it, $99 for 6 months is really not bad at all. But that depends. Are you going to use it like a serious PC gamer who's playing several hours every day,
Right.
most days? Or are you going to occasionally dabble in playing a PC game? If you are dabbling, it might not be worth it. And if you have a data cap, you can't afford to do anything but dabble. But on the other hand, if you're the person who plays 100 hours a month at this point, you probably are a person who has a gaming PC. And if you
Right.
have a gaming PC that is even a generation or two behind, you probably still won't want to be bothered with the cloud gaming. It seems that they're primarily getting people who have no gaming PC, and this is their gaming PC. So it's interesting, because I don't know, are they going to attract people who say, oh, I've got, like, I am a PC gamer, I've got like a GTX 1660 or something, but wow, I'd really love to be able to play better games, or play with better settings, so I'm going to pay $99 for 6 months. Uh, or are those folks going to say, you know what, I don't want to deal with cloud gaming, I'll just go with lower settings? So it seems like, from what they said, the majority of their users are people who have no gaming PC and no serious gaming PC in their house.
Right.
So um, I don't know. This seems like it could, if this worked really well, I could see, and it had support for any game you wanted, I could see more people saying, "Hey, wow, what a good deal! This is much cheaper than buying a graphics card." Uh, you know, much. But at the same time, I think we still aren't seeing from cloud gaming a lot of, I don't know, even in this difficult chip environment, a lot of cannibalization of people saying, I want to, buy cloud gaming instead of owning a PC.
Yeah, agreed. It doesn't it this seems like this is serving another market, giving the ability to bring 3080 capabilities to people who aren't interested in a 3080 or don't have an all the time need for one.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's not really clear whether this is going to be a big hit for them, because if you're really serious about your gaming, it seems like you're going to want to buy your own RTX 3080
Right. Right.
anyway, and that this is not going to satiate you or keep you held over for, if you're a serious PC gamer.
Right.
But who knows? We will be doing some testing on it and finding out how it performs. But I think the biggest issue is what games can you play, and if your game is in the list, great. But if it's not, then it's a problem. Anyway, you can learn more about this by going to tomshardware.com, where we have an article about the announcement, and at some point, hopefully soon, we'll also be able to test it and tell you how it performed for us.
Very cool. Sounds interesting. Obviously, one of the things that I am going to be desperate to hear about will be the actual real world data usage, because you didn't even have to say it. As soon as you started talking data usage, I had the calculator open.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I was trying to figure it out right away.
It could be worse, but I mean, as we said before, this is not the data caps are getting more and more insidious every day because
Mm-hmm.
people also are doing a lot of cord cutting and
Right.
watching video at 4K. So this is just one more drop in a very big bucket.
Yeah. The data
Yeah.
caps have been a problem. They will continue to be a problem until we can either make them go away or the internet goes away, and I don't think the second one's going to happen. So uh, I think it's a problem that needs to be solved one way or another. Because, like you said, we've talked several times. More and more of our lives are being spent online, doing things, working. Work from home is not going anywhere for a lot of people. So and it tends to be in markets where Comcast is heavily favored. Well, not favored, but certainly heavily used. Most hated company in America, trading off with EA every year. So not most favored, but certainly most used. So there's going to be a challenge to this at some point, because more and more things are using more and more bandwidth. I mean, we calculated how much just this show takes in bandwidth, and thank goodness I'm not in a Comcast market, because I'd be in a ton of trouble. So, as always, Avram, appreciate this. Like I told you before we got started, I hadn't even heard of this. So that is that is how far behind on this topic I was. I didn't even know it happened. So I always appreciate you bringing new stuff to my attention and to the audiences, and I look forward to what we talk about next. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Piltch Point with Avram Piltch. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, and of course hit the notification bell, since subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. And if you've got topics you'd like us to discuss in the future, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you don't want to follow us on YouTube, that's okay. There's a lot of other ways that you can follow our content. You can find all of that by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.